So next up, we'll take a look into exploring mobility solutions through public-private partnership. Monica Hernandez, Director of Innovation and Partnerships for the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, otherwise known as SACOG, heads up the Civic Lab, which works with teams from around the region to design and launch pilot projects that address regional challenges through action at a local level. In year one of the program, they explored smart mobility. And Neal Best is the Director of Business Development and Strategic Partnerships for the California Mobility Center. Together, Monica and Neal will co-lead this discussion. So please welcome Monica and Neal to the Zoom stage.
Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, so you've got it. You're on.
Okay, Monica, do you want to kick off?
Thank you. Yes. Hi, how are you? Hello, everyone out there. Thanks for having us. I'm happy to be here. Neal and I go a couple years back, so we're just going to jump in. Neal, if that sounds good to you?
Sounds good to me.
All right. I don't think we need to do intros, do you? I think that was sufficient.
Sure. Yeah, I can just give it a little bit more context to what I'm going to do with regards to CMC. Given it's such a new entity, I think people might benefit from hearing, what specifically I'm going to be involved with. So we had a great overview there from Arlen, covering all aspects of the CMC. So it's really going to be that nexus point for industry innovators, industry incumbents, academic institutions, regulators, and investors. My focus is going to be on building the client side of it, and then the strategic partnership will include building out that service provider side. So just to give that extra context so you know where I'm coming from as it relates to the CMC. So with that, I was going to start off with a question for you, Monica. I know we've talked about this a lot over the last 12 months or so, but what we're planning at the CMC, and forgive the pun, but it can turbocharge the work that you're doing at SACOG Civic Lab. I wonder if you could just start by talking to us about how Civic Lab came to be and how it's helped identify some transportation pain points for the regional cities and counties.
Absolutely. Thanks, Neal. And I will add that Sacramento Area Council of Governments, we're 6 county, 22 city agency focused on transportation, land use, air quality planning to meet state and federal environmental goals. I could do a whole nother 15 minutes on that. But our Civic Lab is one program that we have that has really transformed how we internally and also externally with our member cities and counties think about transportation planning and investments for the future. We've taken best practices from the private sector startup world, matched that with human-centered design to really understand the problems that residents are facing, and even sometimes planners. Historically, planning has been really done in a silo, and listening to community comes after a planning project. And so Civic Lab was really a pilot project that we started just about 3 years ago. And actually one of our co-founders was on a previous channel, shout out to Race Porter and his great mindset. He was a critical part of making Civic Lab happen. And what we wanted to do was bring together the public sector, talk and really understand the core issues that they were trying to solve from the human experience, from the user experience, get deep onto developing challenge statements, and then putting the call out to the private sector for solutions. A lot of times, and we still see lots of startups with really great ideas, really great solutions, but they're not tested. They're not actually solving the problem. They want to come into a city or a county or to a community and put their technology or their idea into practice, but not really getting to the root problem. So we've really tried to change how government thinks so that we can leverage all of the rapid innovation that's happening in the private sector. So that's kind of where we're at, and that's Civic Lab in a nutshell.
It's such a great project, and I think where CMC can align with what you've created is is being that conduit to the private sector. I think there's great synergies for both programs to work together.
Absolutely. And when we were in Germany last year together, in Aachen, Germany, visiting essentially their version of the California Mobility Center, what really struck me was the importance and the presence of the public sector partnership. They were there helping the future mobility startups survive, thrive. Can you talk about how that will transition to the California Mobility Center?
Sure. Yeah, we both were there. We met the mayor of Aachen. He was gracious enough to host us for a lunch and talk about how he interacted with the German version of the CMC, which is run by one of our founding partners, Penn Motion. So it really struck a chord with me when we were there and having that lunch about the importance of having public sector buy-in, just to create this innovation test bed. The city of Aachen was a big early adopter of technology, even at a small scale for things like smart infrastructure, electric mobility, autonomous shuttle transportation. And they were there as a demonstration partner, but also as a deployment partner. So we're in many cases writing purchase orders, which is the lifeblood for a lot of these startups because it helps them get through that valley of death, particularly when it comes to, if you're innovating on hardware, because everybody knows how difficult it is to create a startup. I think on the hardware side, it's even more challenging because of the costs associated with it. So if you have a city that's geared towards innovation and is engaged with a project like the CMC, then it makes a huge difference for startups to have that buy-in. I think that's something that we can transplant here to the Sacramento region. As Arlen noted, we've got early buy-in from the city of Sacramento. They've been a big supporter of the CMC from the beginning. I think that's something, with your help, Monica, we can spread the word throughout the region and other cities and counties and see if we can, get their buy-in for being an early adopter of technology, because it has benefits to both startups and the cities. It allows cities to overcome pain points on the transportation side or infrastructure side. It allows them to hopefully get to their clean air goals quicker. And then there's the benefits to startups to help grow that ecosystem. So I think there's many things we can take from Germany and deploy here. But I think, being in California, I think there's an even bigger opportunity here just because of the access to grants and subsidies at a state level, particularly around clean technology, specifically in the mobility center. I think that just has the ability to take this to the next level that it has been deployed over in Germany. So that's what I'm particularly excited about. I think all the pieces are in place, but I think it can be even more exciting over here in California.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. There's so much that is being primed. What you're doing, bringing the private sector in, and what we can do with our connections with the private sector or the public sector across the region is really starting to uncover those pain points and those challenges and co-create solutions, right? Test them with the market, who are our residents. And I'm very excited because, we've talked about getting underrepresented, under-resourced communities. This is a straight tie through the earlier sessions around the communities that have been structurally left behind by government, and quite frankly are getting left behind by the private sector because they don't necessarily have the big market purchasing power. So they're getting left behind by new mobility options. And stepping in as a partner and supporter of the Mobility Center, I'm thrilled that we're having those conversations from the beginning. And one of the very clear steps that you have talked about and others was the partnership with Los Rios Community College District for workforce development. Can you elaborate a little bit on that as well?
Yeah, so as Arlen mentioned, we spent a good 18 months doing a feasibility study and understanding the market from a private sector side, and also understanding it from some of our public sector institutions here in the region. And what became apparent was, not only align or facilitating access to machinery and resources to help develop new products and technologies. That's all great, but what we heard consistently from startups and even more established companies on the mobility side is just this dearth of a qualified workforce. So it was loud and clear right from the off that we needed to build that into what we were doing. So we can create these innovative companies, and then as they grow and expand and they need to recruit people to sustain their growth, they'll be able to do that here in the Sacramento region. So that's part of what our discussions with Los Rios Community College are all about. It's a big part of our founding partner, Sacramento State. They're going to be pivoting their engineering department more towards future mobility in support of what we're doing at the CMC. And as Arlen said, the vision is to build out a bigger campus further down the line, which will have mobility as a part of it, because we see where this industry is going, and there's a clear need to keep developing out that pipeline of skilled workforce. And Arlen also mentioned this, the beauty of this industry is it has a spectrum of job opportunities. You can be a PhD UC Davis grad student who's working on a white paper about sustainable energy technology, or you could be a hands-on technician that is working with all sorts of different electrification technology. So there's many things that align with what we're trying to do in the region with our partners and just the existing skill sets that we have and we like to promote. So I think it's been a bedrock of what we're trying to do at CMC is bring not just those institutions along with us, but some of our community-based organizations that specialize in training and retraining some of our residents. So it's a key part of what we're doing. And I think, as we've talked about this, I think since our trip in Germany, it's really clear how, if we get this right, then Sacramento can become the preeminent living lab for future mobility in California. I think we'll hear more about that on the panel coming up. But I think, beyond this public-private approach and, encouraging innovation, I think there's an opportunity for Sacramento to go beyond that and become a place where standards are set for the deployment of mobility technology. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Monica, and see if you see that in Sacramento's future.
Yeah, I think our region is totally primed and ready for that. We hear Sacramento area referred to as, just a government town. Well, this is where we can really leverage that and use that. So yes, we are a government town. We are the front porch of the state capitol. We are primed to help influence and develop legislation that supports clean technology certification out of the CMC, right? You've got to get that CMC stamp to meet environmental standards. I mean, we're the leader in the country and we're the state capital. This is our opportunity to own that. Yes, we are a government town, we are a cow town. And I'm excited because the diversity of our region really is primed to innovate in mobility and clean technology across so many sectors. On services for people who are non-ambulatory, young people, how do we expand our broadband to leverage the future technology? There's so much in there in terms of, we talk about autonomy and connected vehicles. There's a whole layer of infrastructure of work that has to happen in that space as well. And we can be leaders in that. We are here, we can make innovations in agriculture, in goods movement, in movement and export internationally out of our ports. There's just no reason that we can't just take off. And we're a humble region, right? We're not LA, we don't want to be LA. And we can also use this to not ever have LA traffic, right? There's so much there. I'm excited that we get to work with the CMC, support the CMC because of your commitment to improving quality of life, for just bridging innovation. There is so much across our region, so many untapped companies, individuals, organizations. And one of the things that we're excited about with our Civic Lab approach is that we're really looking at leveraging the existing investments we made, and we know we have a partner in all of you at CMC, how do we maximize our transit, right? It's not all about future vehicles. What do we have on the ground now? How do we maximize that to reach the most people and to reduce congestion? Because as we reduce congestion and get people out of cars alone, we're actually improving the economy and being an attractive, competitive region. And we're in big competition. Post-COVID, economically, to attract and foster business, we are in trouble, and we have to leverage our existing assets and rely on each other. So we are ready. Let's do this.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I know we've only got a couple of minutes left, but I just wanted to follow on from what you were saying. I think what we like to talk about the CMC as being this, regional initiative with global aspirations, and a lot of people, who are maybe outside the mobility space question that, and how we can make that a reality. And I think what became apparent when we were in Germany and when we've tested this concept in the market is that California really is the center of the universe when it comes to electrification of vehicles and clean technology and smart infrastructure. And not for the reason you might think. It's not because of Silicon Valley. It's because of the regulations that are set here and the standards that are set here that large companies have to adhere to be able to enter the North American market. So that's something that, when I hear you talk about leveraging the fact that we're a government city, it rings true when you talk to anybody in the space. I think it's getting the balance right and getting the communication between that nexus of innovation and regulation is where the CMC is going to see a lot of benefit.
So my timer went off. I was the official timekeeper of this talk. It went by way too fast.
I know.
Laura and Jeff, I'm going to pause because I don't want to go over time without permission.
Yeah, well, if you have 10 seconds of something to say, I'll give you that.
Neal, you get 5.
I'm just excited to launch CMC. One thing I'd say, I noticed Jeff put up the website. The official website will be launched towards the end of next week. So that's a landing page. So stay tuned for more updates.
Great. Yep. All right.
I'm excited. We are ready to go. Government is ready to be a partner, not a barrier.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Monica and Neal. You both shared such excellent ideas, and I'm really looking forward to the shape of things to come in Sacramento's mobility future.